Please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Roll call, Your Honor. Council members Baker. Here. Galloway.
Here.
Lennon.
Here.
Piana. Mayor Covey.
Here as well. We understand that Councilwoman Piana is on the road and is on her way to the meeting and is expected to be here shortly. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Approval of the agenda, Your Honor.
Are there any additions or corrections or changes to the agenda as proposed? If not, a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support? Okay. Seconded by Councilman Galloway, motion by Baker. To approve the agenda as is. Madam Clerk.
Council members Baker. Yes. Galloway.
Yes.
Lennon.
Yes.
Mayor Covey.
Yes, as well. Madam Clerk, the first presentation.
This is from Ferndale Public Schools.
Very good. Hi there.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Stilger, Communications Specialist for the Ferndale Public Schools. We are happy to report that school started out fantastic this year on September 7th, and we are looking forward to a great year. Our district calendar is available on our website as a Google Calendar for everyone to download. The community can visit our website at ferndaleschools.org/calendar to see all of our events and download them right into their computers. The Ferndale Schools welcomed 2 new principals this year. Dr. Kevin Brockberg is the new principal at Coolidge Intermediate School, and Diane Shepik is the new principal at John F. Kennedy School. Both are excited to be part of the Ferndale family, and we are very happy to have them. The Ferndale Career Center, located at 713 East 9 Mile Road, is a great community resource if you're unemployed, need resume assistance, job placement, or more. They can be reached at 248-545-0222. The Career Center announced this week that the state of Michigan has a new unemployment insurance agency virtual system, and this is one of the programs that they can help you with. The Ferndale Schools puts out a weekly newsletter. Looks like this. It's an e-version. And we invite everyone from the community to sign up to receive it. To sign up for the fan out, email fpsfanout@ferndaleschools.org, subject sign me up. We also post a link to our newsletters on our Facebook page, where we encourage everyone to become a fan of us as well. The Ferndale Schools is still enrolling for our adult and alternative education programs for ages 16 to 19 and 20 plus. We are registering through September 24th. If you know someone who still needs to earn their high school diploma, have them give us a call at 248-586-8651. This program is free to those who are under 20. The Ferndale Education Foundation and the Ferndale Schools Fine Arts Boosters invite the community to participate in the 4Kids Golf Classic. This is a fundraiser for both groups who support Ferndale School students by giving back over $35,000 each year. The outing is next Tuesday, September 21st at Fieldstone Golf Course in Auburn Hills. If you're interested in playing, volunteering, or donating items to the raffle, email Fran Foote at ffoote@ferndaleschools.org by this Thursday, September 16th. That's it.
Thank you. Good luck as all the young people start their first week of school, second week of school. Madam Clerk.
We have a presentation by the Census 2010, Michael Bishara.
Thank you very much, members of the council, Mayor Covey, Mr. Brunner, ladies and gentlemen. We are very grateful for the efforts that you have made and those in the community to helping us get the word out about the census, the importance of the census, why it's important, and the fact that we had a great response rate here in Ferndale underscores your efforts, and we're happy that it went so well. Because of that, we would like to express our gratitude to each of you with a plaque and a letter from our regional director. And if I could, let me take these out. And would like to give this one to Councilwoman Piana, who I know you mentioned is on her way.
Yes, sir. Wow. Very nice.
To Councilman Scott Galloway, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Covey, thank you very much for your efforts.
So have you finished counting us all yet?
Yeah, well, you know, it's
Still counting?
coming in.
All right.
We hope you hit the magic threshold for what you need.
It's a beautiful, beautiful plaque.
Councilman Mike Lennon, thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Councilwoman Baker, thank you very much for your efforts, and your dedication to the census and the importance of it.
Thank you. Just glad the citizens all did their jobs.
We're grateful. Thank you again. And, you know, the numbers go to the president no later than December 31st of this year. And then the numbers start coming back to the states for the purposes of grassroots reapportionment no later than April of 2011. So our thanks to you and best wishes here on everything that you do.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
That brings us to a presentation of a resolution recognizing Citizenship Day and Constitution Week.
Very good. I would ask, if I may, Councilman Lennon to read this for us. It's not a long resolution.
The following resolution was moved and supported unanimously. We, the people, did ordain and establish a Constitution for the United States of America to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. And it is important that all citizens fully understand the provisions, principles, and the meaning of the Constitution so they can support, preserve, and defend it against encroachment. And the President and the Congress of the United States have designated September 17, 2010 as Citizenship Day, and the week of September 17 through 23, 2010 as Constitution Week. Constitution Week and Citizenship Day provide an opportunity for all Americans to learn and to reflect upon the rights and privileges of citizenship and its responsibilities. The people of the city of Ferndale do enjoy the blessings of liberty, the guarantees of the Bill of Rights, equal protection of the law under the Constitution, and the freedoms derived from it. Be it resolved that the City Council proclaims September 17, 2010 as Citizenship Day in the week of 17 through 23, 2010 as Constitution Week in the City of Ferndale, and invites every citizen and institution to join in the national commemoration. Do we have full support for that?
Support? Support. Yes, unanimous support. Thanks for reading that, Councilman. And the gentleman who requested this wasn't able to be here, but Ms. Tauman, I'm sure we can get him that resolution.
Certainly.
And recognize the great Constitution that governs our nation. Madam Clerk.
Call
next
to
up.
audience, Your Honor.
Call to audience already. This is the time for folks to speak on any issue they wish that is not on the agenda. Our rules of engagement are a 3-minute limit of speaking, that you share your name and address, written or verbally. In the back, you could write it down if you didn't want to give your street address over the PA system, and that you be as courteous as possible without any personal attacks on any individuals. Hi there.
Eric C. Feddersen, 625 Saratoga Drive East. Mistakenly, I assumed that there was going to be some angled parking on West 9 Mile. When I saw the lines for the activities coming up later in the month, each of you has a letter concerning this. I would ask that you retain it for future reference. It concerns reverse angle parking along the West 9 Mile Business District. And I thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will, do we have copies of that? No?
In your envelope.
All right, we'll check for that. Thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Chris Johnston, 202 West Maplehurst. I'd like to say that the DIY Street Fair this year kicks off, as it so happens, on Citizenship Day, which is this Friday, the September 17th, which is a perfect day for it. I'd like to invite everyone out. This year is going to be a really great event. Like I said, it starts on the 17th and it goes the 17th, 18th, and 19th. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We will have over 120 vendors this year, which is about 35 more than last year, many of which I'm excited to report are from Ferndale, which is really cool as far as we're concerned. We've got 14 Michigan breweries with about 2 beers each to sample if you'd like. if you're of age. We've got 6 local restaurants, and we're really excited to have Moo Moo's Vegetarian Cuisine this year, which is a new addition for us, so there'll be a lot more satisfied people with a vegetarian option as well. And on the Metro Times main stage, we're going to have over 60 great State of Michigan bands, featuring the Electric Six, Goober and the Peas, the Silent Years, and many, many more. New for this year is our partnership with the Oakland County Parks and Recreation, and that was brought about by the DDA, the Ferndale DDA, which we would like to thank for their help in acquiring that. Oakland County Parks and Rec is going to supply us with a climbing wall, a puppet show, and a mobile stage all weekend long, and the mobile stage will have all kinds of kids programming on it, including some really cool musical stuff from the Detroit School of Pop and Rock. Let's see, and that's all in the Garden Fresh Salsa Kids Zone. I have to plug the sponsors because we have some really great sponsors who have helped us out this year. All of these things are free, which, you know, for an event like this is atypical. So we're really excited to do something like this. We also have some free projects from Arts and Scraps that kids can make and take home with them, as well as I3 Detroit, which is another kids make and take project. And we will have a Ferndale Public Schools Celebrity Dunk Tank this year, which we've got a lot of surprising Ferndale dignitaries from the Ferndale Public Schools who have decided to get wet for the weekend. And all the money for the dunk tank goes to benefit Ferndale Public Schools. And this year, again, I'd like to welcome back Galloway and Collins as the sponsor of our community lemonade stand, where we will have lemonade for sale for $1. Again, I'm sure lots of other events that cost a lot more than this. This is just $1, and every dollar goes to local Ferndale community groups. What else can I tell you about that? It all starts this Friday at 6 o'clock, and it goes through Sunday night. And the event is on West Troy, and it's west of Woodward and south of 9 Mile. And all the information that you could ever desire about this is at DIYStreetFair.com, so check it out. All the schedules are there. I should also thank DPW and the city for being so easy to work with and great to work with for this event, and it's going to be a great weekend, it looks like, so please all come out.
Chris, is there a website, or where would someone find, like, the bands that are playing?
Everything is at DIYStreetFair.com. All the kids' events. It will all be going tonight, including a full vendor map that shows all the vendors that we have, where they are, where the restrooms are, where the Puppet Mobile is, when all the bands are playing, everything that they could possibly want to know.
So DIYStreetFair.com. And you mentioned it was west of Woodward. I suspect it's on the east side of Woodward, over by the WAB, is it not?
It's extremely closely located to Woodward Avenue Brewers, yes.
All right, east of Woodward.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that correction, Mayor. I've timed this. This is 3 minutes. Sherry Wells, 315 West Troy. After several of us spoke about the noise problem at the August 9 meeting, and the city clerk informed council that our petition signatures would start expiring September 12, the mayor looked at his calendar and said to set the issue for the first council meeting in September, which would be September 9. Oops. The mayor must have been looking at August instead. We had to file the petition before 5:30 p.m. today to not lose 88 signatures. However, the noise issue is not on tonight's agenda anyway. First, I remind everyone that we neighbors expressed concerns at city council meetings long before construction began on the new location of Rosie's, which Mr. Kramer had told us neighbors in one of our homes would be a family restaurant. For the past year, we continued informing council and citizens here and watching on cable of how our every fear and then some came true. 10 people from both sides of 9 Mile Road circulated the petitions, getting over 266 signatures from all over Ferndale. Since starting this petition drive, the noise and vibration from several sources has been worse. We finally hesitated less to call the police, and as they learned how to use their decibel meters, we learned that the current decibel levels are meaningless for both noise and vibration. C weight is vibration from heavy bass. Last Friday was one of the heaviest vibrating nights and started at 8 p.m. The reading taken in my presence at 12:45 a.m. recorded 70. The current ordinance states that in residential mix, the limit is 75, obviously too high for livability. But the officer told me then, and 6 of us during last night's loudness, that he was told not to use the residential mix levels, but to use the higher commercial level of 80. The readings were taken on the southwest corner of Allen and West Troy, 2 feet from my neighbor's lawn, with 1 or 2 houses closer than that. If that is not residential mixed, then what is? And today the police department told me that they were told to enforce only the decibel section of the ordinance. The current noise ordinance was passed after problems 10 years ago. None of those concerned outdoor amplification, much less outdoor music in the first place. The outdoor amplified sound violates Section 298 of the current ordinance because it, quote, disturbs, annoys, or endangers the calm, comfort, quiet, repose, health, peace, or safety of others beyond the immediate vicinity of the disturbance. End of quote. Only a few feet beyond that immediate vicinity are people trying to work, play, and sleep on their own property. To those of you who think we're trying to take from musicians any place to work, think about AJ's. He has round-the-clock music with his charity fundraising concerts, and there are no complaints. It's indoors and with reasonable sound and vibration levels. It can be done, and it must be done for our neighborhoods. I have a copy that Ms. Tallman can circulate to all of you.
Thank you.
I'm Ann Muller. I live at 332 West Troy. And I want to know why it's taking the city so long to resolve a new city noise ordinance. The city has ignored our requests, and we were not taken seriously till a petition was distributed. Each Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, and into the evening, it's getting worse. And the city takes no action. This past Sunday, after the Lions football game, there was a huge screen displaying a band with loud music. Wall-to-wall people on the deck, a large group congregated on the sidewalk. This crowd was incited to scream and cheer. The noise reminded me of the days when I went to concerts up at Pine Knob. I have neighbors trying to get their young children to bed. They attend school on Monday morning. And at this point, I'm demanding a quick resolution to this noise problem. And also, my father, who has lived in this city since 1923, wants to know why he has to pay taxes and put up with this noise. Those are my...
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. And I assume you're talking about Rosie O'Grady's in terms of the Lions game? And okay, just wanted to appreciate that. And
I appreciate you please doing something.
my understanding is that these items are coming to us at the next council meeting. Is that accurate, Mr. Brunner? Or
Yes,
Mr.
Your
Christ?
Honor. Correct, Your Honor.
All right. Did you want to share?
Well, just the ordinance committee consists of Councilman Galloway, myself, and our city attorney, Mr. Christ, and we are trying to convene this week, but we all work during the day, and we're trying to get it done, put it this way, and it will get done. We're working on it. We just talked about it before the meeting today, so.
Yeah, I've been speaking with the DDA, and they have they've provided input to the staff. Mr. Christ is working with the ordinance committee, which again is
Could they do something special on Sunday when people are trying to get their young children to bed?
We can take that into consideration, certainly.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, there's going to be a long meeting between us three, so.
Thank you. Next.
Mayor Covey and Council, hello. Douglas Christie, Ferndale resident, Chair of the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission, and I'm here tonight to mention our next Green Tuesday, which happens to be tomorrow, the 14th. They are always the second Tuesday of each month. The Cullick Community Center at 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And tomorrow night's topic is going back to school green. So for those of you who have not purchased all of your school supplies and perhaps bring and pack a lunch, or the parents do, we're going to be covering topics about how to be environmentally safe and sound when it comes to purchasing your school supplies, and also healthy treats and snacks to pack in the lunch recyclable bag or a non-PVC toxic plastic or tin lunch box, for example. Again, that's 6:30 to 8 o'clock tomorrow at the Cullick Center, and we have several speakers that are going to be covering those topics. And the other event I wanted to mention kind of ties into the DIY event. The Ferndale Environmental Group, along with local Sierra Club members, will be organizing and helping with the recycling again at this event. Last year, we recycled a lot of items, and for example, the first day of the event, we only had 1 bag of trash. So we're shooting for goals like that again this year, and that's going to be at the event on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, as Chris mentioned earlier. So thank you.
Hey, Mr. Christie, when does the FESC meet?
We meet on the first Monday of each month at the Community Center at 6:30.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wish to speak tonight during the public speaks portion of our meeting? No? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we'll move on the agenda.
We are on to the consent agenda, Your Honor. Item A, approval of the minutes of the August 23rd meeting. Item B, approval to adopt a resolution recognizing the 50th anniversary of the priestly ordination of Father Robert Worm of St. James Parish. Item C, approval to enter into 2 trade inspection employment agreements. Item D, approval of special event for Wags and Wishes Animal Rescue Barbecue at Gary Park on September 25th, 2010 from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Item E, approval to award the beautification segment of CDBG Program Year 2010 to Great Lakes Landscaping in the amount of $4,450 and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the contract. Item F, approval of the 2-year agreements with the cities of Lathrop Village and Huntington Woods and the 1-year agreement with the city of Oak Park to use the city's southwest storage yard as a transfer site for leaves and authorization for the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreements. Item G, approval to purchase a vertical carousel filing cabinet at a cost not to exceed $29,419 and to charge the expense to municipal elections capital outlay. Item H, approval to authorize Rhodes Welding Company of Ferndale to repair 3 leaf vacuums at an estimated total time and material cost of $9,910 and to charge the expense to the Vehicle and Equipment Fund, repair and maintenance. Item I, approval of the city's 2010 membership in the Traffic Improvement Association and to charge the fee of $6,100 to the Major Streets Fund membership account. Item J, approval to request bids to hire an architect, building engineer in order to assess the feasibility of building modifications to fire headquarters at 1635 Livernois. Item K, approval of the appointment of James Patrick Brennan as magistrate of the 43rd District Court. Item L, approval to adopt ordinance number 1100 to amend Chapter 7, Business Regulation and Licenses Generally, Article 19, Body Decorating Salons, Section 7-397 of the Ferndale Code of Ordinances. Item M, approval of a parade permit as submitted by the Ferndale High School Marching Band for a parade to be held on September 25th, 2010 from 3 until 6 p.m., beginning and ending at Ferndale High School with stops to perform music at Gary Park, Roosevelt and Coolidge Schools, Ferndale Foods, and Coolidge Community Center. And finally, item N, approval of the bills and payrolls as certified by the city manager to be paid subject to review by the Council Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well done. Any items that folks would like to pull for further discussion?
Your Honor, I'd pull item I, Traffic Improvement
Yes.
Association.
Is that the only one, Councilman?
That's the only one.
Anyone else? All right, including the audience. Then a motion to adopt the remaining items.
So moved, Your Honor.
Support.
You do have somebody in the audience raising their.
You'll have to come to the mic, I'm afraid. You can bring the little one. All right, so right now we're pulling item I as in Indian. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I was just wondering, I'm Julie.
Hi.
Nice to see you all. I was just wondering if we could hear a little bit more about the filing cabinet with cost not to exceed $30,000.
Certainly, we can pull that for you. That is item
G.
G. You got it. I just wanted to have the little baby on the camera. I thought that would be enjoyable for the audience. Thank you for bringing him. Anything else? All right, and there is a motion to adopt all of the other items except for I and G. We still good with that? Kate Baker, seconds. Madam Clerk? Did I get them?
Council members Galloway,
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Baker? Yes. And Mayor Covey.
Yes, as well, and we welcome Councilwoman Piana. Thank you for driving within the speed limit to get here on time, I'm sure. Good to have you. Did we vote on that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we did, Your Honor.
We are next then, Madam Clerk, regular agenda.
We are to regular agenda item A, Your Honor, which is consideration of appointments to the Financial Planning Committee.
All right, let's start with Mr. Bruner, the city manager, to introduce this item for us.
Thanks, Your Honor. On August 23rd, the council established a temporary financial planning committee tasked with reviewing the city's finances and providing the council with recommendations to address future imbalances. The applications started pouring in, I think even before the council actually formally adopted or created the committee. We had received 24 by the time the agenda was prepared, and had subsequently received 4 more. So you have most of them in your agenda packet. In addition, you should have at your place a printed list that summarizes all the applications, and I think the clerk may have printed a few of the last minute additions as well. And now it's worth pointing out that I omitted Jackie Smith from the list, and that's was an oversight on my part. But if I understand correctly, at the time her application was delivered to me by the DDA director, and Jackie can tell me if I'm wrong, the DDA was offering John McQuiggan and Jackie Smith as potential business representatives, and it was John McQuiggan who was the primary and Jackie who was the secondary. Okay, so I've got got that correct. Now, including Jackie's, we have 29 applications for a maximum of 12 seats on this particular committee. There's been a lot of talk at the previous council meetings on this subject about appointing a very broad-based and diverse committee. So the way I've broken up the list is that the names are alphabetical by precinct, to offer geographic diversity as a starting point, and give the council to some way to begin to organize what might be an otherwise unwieldy 29 applications. So my suggestion for tonight's meeting is that if there's folks in the audience that have applied, perhaps have them identify themselves so you can ask questions of them if it becomes necessary later. But my suggestion is to basically have the council kind of go around the table, offer up suggestions, names of people that they'd like to appoint, have a motion and a second, and then some discussion on that, and move through until you've identified up to 12 people to serve on the committee.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for helping organize this, Mr. Bruner. Would you share what is the yellow and the white?
Oh, that's just to highlight the different precincts, so you get some separation between 1, 2, 3, 4, etc.
If I can add a little further description too of what we're trying to do is with regards to this is very strongly wanting diversity on our committee. I think everyone up here is very pleased and impressed that we got 29 applicants. This is going to be some heavy lifting. This group is going to need to begin meeting right away. They're going to meet weekly, if not more than once a week. And I think we're going to try to set a goal of having this organized before the holidays are here.
Yeah, the resolution that the council adopted creating the committee asked that they present recommendations at the first council meeting in November. And I would suggest tonight that the council, after it's done making appointments, select an interim chair who can convene the first meeting, and that we set the first meeting this Wednesday evening, at that time which the committee can decide for itself who its officers shall be and when it should meet.
I appreciate that, and again, it is going to meet quickly. If these people, if you can't make the first meeting, we understand, but it's going to hit the ground running, and the reason we need this done post haste is we need to move prior to the budget next year, which begins in the process begins in the winter, and if we want to put this on the ballot, if there's something that does end up being put on the ballot, February is an ideal time. Otherwise, we may end up, it may cost a lot more money to put it on in May, or to certainly to wait all the way until November of 2011. The process we'd like to follow here, as the city manager mentioned, and we'll be as open as we possibly can and let people ask questions. Because there's 29 folks, we don't want to obviously interview all 29 people. What I would like to suggest is that council members, one at a time, nominate one person at a time. We could have some discussion and you could share some names, but I think unless you have questions, and we will have a time to ask questions, that we allow each, that we basically let folks make motions one person at a time. And I would again suggest that we want to be as open and as inclusive meaning not just from different geographical sections of the city, but also representing the different political persuasions and beliefs. We have Republicans, Democrats, Independents, people who did not respond, representing at least most of the major political persuasions in town. And also, finally, that each of us at the table have at least a couple of nominations that they're able to provide, so that the five of us also are able to have our diverse interests represented. The mayor is not able legally to make nominations or to make motions, so I'll wait through part of the process and share a couple names at some point that I hope someone else would nominate. Are there questions people would like to ask, requests for information?
I would just have to add that since we do have a large list to select from tonight, that this is a very open committee, that all the public can attend at any time to provide input to the committee, so this is not just a closed-door committee, and that I hope that everybody who submitted an application is actually going and representing their thoughts and opinions, and making sure that this is very inclusive and bringing a broad range of opinions to council.
Every meeting is open to the public. And we could have a couple of alternates if we choose. If we end up with 12 and we want a couple more names, there's no reason, I don't believe, that we couldn't have a couple of alternates that could attend meetings as well. And then if someone is absent, that person could vote if there is a vote. Other questions or any issue with the process I
So
described?
the process is going to be, for example, Baker, because she's first alphabetically, nominates the first person. If that person gets seconded, then we vote on it right away? Or how are we going to?
That's what I was thinking of.
I think there should be discussion after the motion's made and seconded, then that motion.
Sure. All motions would have discussion, and we can have some discussion right now as well. And it doesn't have to be Baker because she's alphabetically first. I'm just going to let folks, if someone has someone they'd like to nominate, they can. Before we go ahead and do that, does anyone have any general comments?
Well, I mean, there's more than 11 people on here that I'd like to see serve, and so some people that I would otherwise have put on, had fewer people applied, are not going to get my vote. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. I think we've got a lot of, well, we've got someone represented from every single precinct.
Yes.
I would hate to see, major sections, at least major quadrants of the city not represented geographically, regardless of what the other demographic, matters that they have. But
agreed. Thank you. I appreciate that, Councilman. If there's no other general comments, then are there any motions to begin this process?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
I have two people who talked with me personally. Is this on?
It is.
So I'll start with the first one on the list, and that is Catherine Katie Hirschberger. I would move that we appoint Catherine Hirschberger to the Financial Planning Committee. She's here tonight if anyone wants to hear from her.
Thank you. Do you want to share a sentence or two about her?
Do I have a second?
Yes, yeah, of course.
Oh, support, yeah.
Thanks.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant a second in time.
Oh, no, I'm
Yeah,
going
take a
to.
few
Did someone
seconds.
support me? Katie is at least, unless there are some names on here that I'm not recognizing, Katie is an active member of the Ferndale Seniors group. She is a regular council meeting attendee and council viewer. And like I said, she spoke with me personally about this. I think she's actually the first person who applied. I'm not sure if Katie has anything else.
You want to wave at us or stand up? Thank you. A familiar face and an excellent choice. And the motion was seconded, I believe. I didn't announce that, but you got it, City Clerk. Any discussion then on Kate Hirschberger? Very good. Madam Clerk?
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes. All right, congratulations. We got one on the committee. All right. Who else would like to make, yes, sir?
Your Honor, I would like to nominate Scott Helmer. He is a finance VP at Comerica, served on the Fiscal Advisory Board, and I think would bring a very strong finance background to the committee.
I don't see Scott in the audience, but he's well-known and very involved. A second?
Second that?
Baker seconds Galloway's motion for Scott Helmer. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, as well. Scott is put on the board unanimously. Councilman, you wanted to go next?
I want to nominate Steve Kuzmanovich to the board. He's retired fire lieutenant from another jurisdiction. However, he's lived in town here for a number of years. He's educated, and he's connected to the community, and obviously has knowledge of city government. I believe he served on our police and fire board for a while, too.
Yes, he did. All right. Is there a second for Mr. Kuzmanovich? And I'm not able to second. Is that correct, Mr. Christ?
Under Robert's rules, typically the chair doesn't second motions.
All right. All right. Unfortunately, there, Councilman, I don't have a second for
I
that.
kind of figured as much.
All right. I do hope that each of us, each council member is able to get one or two on there that they would like. Councilwoman Piana, would you like to go next?
Sure. I would like to nominate Mark Van Dyke, and I just wanted to be clear that I've never met Mark, but I've heard good things about him, and so he comes to us as a corporate tax manager, and I definitely think we need that perspective on our committee.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Support.
Support by Galloway. Piana makes the motion. And Mr. Brunner, would you do us the favor of tracking the precincts and also the political persuasion?
Sure.
And alert us if we're leaning too heavily in one direction or the other?
I'll do my
Appreciate
best.
that. Any discussion?
Well, Mark is from Northeast Ferndale. He's our second independent, and I think a CPA would be a good addition to this committee.
Very good. Madam Clerk?
Council members Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, passes unanimously. I'm unable to make motions, but I would like to suggest that Bob Porter, former mayor, be nominated to this board.
I would be happy to nominate former Mayor Porter.
Second.
Thank you. We could say lots of nice things about him, but he was councilman and mayor for many years and did huge amounts of work and a lot of variety of things. One of the most important was his ability to help pass the bond issue that repaired all of our streets and water mains. Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Council members Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yeah, Mr. Porter, of course, is from Precinct 4, near the Kulik Center, and is, as we all know, a pretty middle-of-the-road independent politically. Who'd like to go next?
Your Honor, I think it's important that we have public safety presence on this financial planning committee. For that reason, I would nominate Dennis Whitey.
Support.
Thank you. And Mr., is it Whitey? I always thought it was Whitty. Whitey, you say he's with Public Safety?
He's a police officer.
Police officer, very good. Discussion. There was a second, Kate?
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
Councilmembers Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Absent
Is
from the
absent.
table
I'm
temporarily.
sorry. Piana?
Yes.
Baker? Yes. And Mayor Covey?
Yes. All right.
Well, we've hit the people who spoke with me directly, so I will continue down my list. I would like to nominate, and although it's not on this list, I do know that he's a Republican as he runs the precinct at the Kulik Center on Election Day, and everyone needs to sort of have their affiliation displayed. I would nominate Joel Petrie.
Support.
Great. And Joel, of course, long history of working with Ferndale. I was on the Parks and Rec Board, and also was a great volunteer for Sherilyn Tallman in our clerk's
Fantastically
office.
organized and collaborative, absolutely.
All right, he lists himself as an independent, but
I don't think it's listed, actually.
that's okay. It isn't?
Is it not? Oh, I'm sorry, maybe I'm looking at the wrong one.
That's all
I
right.
apologize.
Doesn't matter. Madam Clerk, roll call on that one?
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey?
Yes, as well. Are we at 6 now?
I count 6.
Yes.
Councilwoman Piana, is there another person you'd like to suggest?
Yes, I would like to nominate Jackie Smith, owner of the Candlewick Shop and business owner in the DDA. I think that's a great perspective to have on our committee.
I would second. Jackie's a resident as well and has businesses in our industrial districts as well as our DDA.
Would you like to wave at us, Jackie? Thank you for that. Any discussion? That was made and seconded, Madam Clerk?
Council members Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, thank you.
Your Honor, I have a nomination. I understand that Greg Pollica is interested in serving on this Financial Advisory Committee, and I would nominate him.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Galloway, seconded by Piana, for Greg Pollica to be on this committee. I don't see him here tonight, but he was here earlier for the Police and Fire Board. He is listed as a Democrat, and he is the sole member from Precinct 6, so a good choice. Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Council members Galloway?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, as well.
There's another gentleman who's the only applicant from his precinct on the east side of our city. I would nominate Ben Updike from Precinct 7.
Support.
Thank you. He's an engineer, listed as an independent politically. Motion made and seconded. Baker Piana for Mr. Updike from Precinct 7 on the east side, East Hazelhurst. Discussion, Madam Clerk?
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey?
Yes. I had listed John McQuiggan, who is not a resident of Ferndale and might be the only one who's not a resident. Jackie, are you a resident of Ferndale? Yes, I am. You are? John is the manager at Paramount Bank and very active with the Chamber of Commerce. Is there interest in that? I need a motion and a second.
Yeah, I think John's a good fit. I'll try it.
You'll make that motion?
Yeah.
Is there?
Support John, absolutely.
Thank you kindly. There's a motion and seconded by Lennon and then Baker for John McQuiggan. Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Council members Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, that passes. And how many we got, Mr. Brunner?
We're up to 10 now, and I don't think we have selected any self-identified Republicans up to this point.
I count 9. Who am I missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I have
6, 7, 8.
Jackie Smith. She went.
10, thank you, yes.
You're at 10? And no Rs for sure? I would think that Mr. Gagne would make a good addition to this committee to represent a vast, not a vast, but a swath of Ferndale. Is there a motion or second for that?
I was actually going to suggest Sharon Chess. She and her husband are business owners. She's also the only applicant from precinct 3.
Well, I appreciate that. You can make that motion as long as, until I don't get a motion or a second.
I'll move this, nominate
Mr. Gagne, is there a second?
Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, but I didn't get a second, so Kate, you next. Sharon Chess?
I would move to appoint Sharon Chess.
Okay.
Support.
The motion made and seconded for Sharon Chess from Precinct 3. On Earl Boulevard, she is listed as an independent. Discussion? Madam Clerk.
If you would give me 1 second to catch up, my software froze. Okay, council members Lennon,
Yes.
Piana,
Yes.
Baker? Yes. Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, as well. How many are we at, Mr. Bruner?
11.
All right. Is there anyone on this who has an R by their name?
Anyone who's
Been
moved
put
and
on the board?
approved? No.
You know, I'm a big Democrat myself, and I strongly suggest that we, even though we've got some independents and maybe some folks who lean Republican, we should have at least one person on this board who is a self-identified Republican, so that we get all aspects of the political viewpoints in the city, which would then help unify us as we move forward with our designs.
Do we have all the precincts presented now? We're up to 10?
No, there's been no one from Precinct 5 appointed. There's only one applicant.
I would make a motion, we'll see where it goes.
Hang on a second, let me correct myself. I don't know what precinct Ms. Smith is from.
Jackie, where do you live? Rough? Huh?
East, west?
As luck would have it, that's Precinct 5.
There you go. Well, that is luck. All right. So all precincts are covered.
All present and accounted for.
I will make a motion. Like I said, we'll see where it goes. I would move that we appoint Daniel Harto. I've worked with Dan in his role as a member of the Ferndale Historic Commission. I find him to be very collaborative and interested in city business.
And a self-reported Republican, huh?
I support.
Motion made, seconded for Mr. Dan Harto of West Lewiston, Precinct 2. Motion made and seconded, Baker Piana. Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes. All right, that is 12. Is there any interest on the council for any alternates?
I don't have any interest in an alternate. I'd encourage everybody who applied but didn't get on to certainly attend the meetings. I would, however, like to make a motion for interim chair, if now's the appropriate time.
I'll just assume that there's no interest in alternates. All right.
It's an open meeting, so
Go ahead.
I've really been impressed with Joel Petrie over the years in the way he's gotten involved and organized polling stations, and I would ask that he be named as the interim chair for this committee at its first meeting.
And did
I would second that as I nominated Joel.
seconded by Baker, motion made by Galloway. And then was the plan, Mr. Bruner, that the group would elect its own
Yeah, at the organizational
Leaders.
meeting, it can elect its own officers.
and you're going to attend all these meetings? All right. Joel Petrie is listed as an independent here on our sheet. Discussion. I think it's a fine choice. Madam Clerk?
Council members Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, members of the council, for that process that went very well. Also, thanks to all of the 29 folks who offered their time and energy and effort towards this very important project. Madam Clerk, next item.
That brings us to regular agenda item B, consideration of licensing fees for medical marijuana facilities.
Thank you. Mr. Bruner, who would like to introduce this item?
The city clerk, Your Honor.
I was asked to confer with the different departments to see what kind of time is estimated for the licensing processes for medical marijuana facilities and medical marijuana grow operations. And the estimate took into consideration the time it will take for the city clerk staff to process these applications, the community development clerical staff to process the applications, the community development building inspector for his inspection of the facilities, the fire marshal's time for inspection of the facilities, and a police detective's time for a once-a-month inspection of the facilities. It came to a total of 32 hours of staff time for each application, and based on pay rates, I am recommending that the application fee be $2,000.
Thank you for that. Questions from the council? Yes, ma'am.
City Clerk, what is the average or standard licensing fee out there? I know that I've talked to many other cities, and they're all wondering what is a licensing fee for these facilities. Since this is relatively new in the state of Michigan, every city is trying to figure out the right balance.
I did not do a comparable study with other municipalities. Our procedures in the past have been to make sure that the city recoups its costs, and this is based on estimates from the various departments that would be involved in the process. This is a close estimate of our actual costs.
Based off of the experience thus far?
Thus far.
Thus far. And is there any, will you guys be tracking your time or keeping aware or sort of tracking what the true costs are as over time?
We can certainly do that because the fee resolution will come up every year for renewal.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, are there any licensing fees for any other organizations that are any higher than $2,000 a year?
Off the top of my head, I don't think so. I think special events probably come closest.
What about a liquor license fee? Is there a variety?
Liquor license fees. The renewal fees every year are around $250, somewhere in there, but the initial liquor license fee, I want to say, is around $5,000 perhaps.
$5,000. I have no issue with $2,000 as an initial licensing fee. This is such a new issue. We could probably check with Southfield or Oak Park. We know that there's a couple facilities open there, and we can change these at any time. If anything, I would suggest we raise them, not to be punitive, but to again recoup our costs, and knowing that these are going to require a little bit of extra facilitation and oversight. I am concerned, and this is probably not the time to bring it up, but in terms of oversight and inspections, I do want to make sure that the city of Ferndale doesn't participate in anything that would violate HIPAA laws, which are the Health Information Privacy and Protection Act. That concerns me greatly. But we can deal with that with our police department and others who will do any of this oversight. Other questions? Councilwoman Baker, did you have a question?
I spoke with the city clerk about exactly what services were provided as part of this $2,000 fee, and as we look at this again next year and consider whether or not that amount is the right fit, just to clarify, all of these applications will fall under the special land use, which has a separate application fee. Is that correct, Sharon?
That is correct.
Also, if there are any renovations to a facility, including moving plumbing or electrical, that would require additional inspections and permitting. Is that correct?
That's correct, as it would for any business making renovations or moving into a new space.
So if, so there may be a balance. We may find that this is appropriate for the sort of basic move-in ready operation, but I think other things per our fee schedule will be assessed as needed.
And Mr. Christ, are you okay with this, knowing that the cities are not allowed to vastly overcharge for such fees?
Your Honor, it was based on a rough approximation of what those anticipated costs are going to be, and in the first instance, I think it's based on what the various departments are estimating their costs are going to be. So as long as there is a rough approximation to the costs, then there's not a question about a impermissible tax disguised as a fee, and it should be appropriate.
And if an organization or company wants to open up and they are unable to, in other words, do they have to pay this $2,000 fee and then take a chance of being okayed to open?
That's, yes, by ordinance, this is a non-refundable application fee.
All right.
And licenses by ordinance are good for the fiscal year.
So, but let's say Company A wants to open up a, I don't know, growing operation. They pay that fee and then go through the process for the special land use? And if they are denied the special land use, they lose the $2,000 fee?
All of that staff time would have already been put in, so if that's what we're basing our fee structure on, we don't get the time back, so.
Appreciate it.
Your Honor, I don't think that example would be an issue necessarily, because you'd probably do your special land use first. You'd get that permit first. Once the special land use permit was secured, only then would you pay the application fee and go through the building, pull any building permits or that sort of thing.
Okay, so they'll have an idea of whether they're going to be successful or not. I guess I just didn't want to see people losing all that money and being turned down regularly.
And you would probably turn in a zoning determination request or something initially, just to make sure you're applying for the
All
right
right, thank you.
location.
Well, then, any other discussion? I mean, does anyone want to change this, or are we good to start with $2,000?
I'm good with 2,000, though I've heard up to 5,000, and I think we're going to see other cities go through that range, but I'm good to start here and reevaluate as time goes on.
Do you want to make that a motion?
I move to amend the fiscal year 2011 fee resolution to add under city clerk annual non-refundable application fee for initial or renewal license of medical marijuana facility or medical marijuana grow operation of $2,000.
Support.
Thank you. Motion made, seconded, Piana and Baker, for that issue. Discussion. Final. Madam Clerk.
Councilmembers Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, that motion passes unanimously. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Regular agenda item C, consideration of application for SAFER grant to rehire 4 laid-off firefighters.
The mayor has stepped away. I see that our new fire chief is approaching. Sorry, Chief Sullivan. Would you give us
Council?
a quick introduction?
Yes, the SAFER grant from the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program is open until September 17th. This year for 2010, there were some major changes. There is no cost-sharing portion for the city, no percentage of cost-sharing. You can bring back as many people requested for a 2-year period. At the end of that 2-year period, there's no moratorium or anything. You could lay them back off if the finances haven't changed. The only stipulation is during the 2-year period, you could not have any more layoffs without reducing the grant. So if more layoffs had to be done, then let's say we had to lay off another guy and we brought back 4 with the grant, then they would adjust the grant accordingly. So you would lose 2 people because they would take 1 away with the grant because you're wanting to lay off 1. So that's the only other stipulation in it. Otherwise, it's pretty much a zero cost to us, and it buys us 2 years of bringing the manpower back up a little bit.
It's an interesting new twist. If I remember correctly, the reason that some cities were hesitant to apply for this in the past was that it was essentially creating, just sort of an unsustainable system where you were required to retain the positions that were
in the past, like if we were to hire new
That's
firefighters
not
under the
here.
2010, you have to keep them for 3 years. Feds pay the first 2 years in full, and then you have to pay the third year of that person. So obviously, I didn't see that as an option for us. So,
And that's
but
not
the
in this
4
any
would cost us nothing, and would give us 4 people back for a 2-year period.
Have you spoken with any of our congresspeople or senators? Is there anyone that we can lobby, assuming that we decide to move forward with this?
I believe, looking at the way they do the point system, we're a full paid career department, and we have had grants from the AFG before, so that puts us up higher on the point list. We are in a urban environment, and we have some critical infrastructure, things like the railroads and chemical plants and that. So I think we're sitting pretty good. However, on the news the other night, I don't know if it's Chris Hansen or someone had a report, there's a lot of states that are in a lot worse shape for firefighters and police officer losses, so those states may get a higher point consideration coming out of that state. Michigan wasn't one of the listed ones.
That's surprising.
For that, yes, it is. So there's other states apparently that are a lot worse off for losing public safety personnel. But other than that, I believe we would look pretty good on this grant.
The mayor has returned. We are just in the request for information stage, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Chief, other questions or requests for info? Yes, sir.
Through the chair to the city attorney, Dan, is your understanding of the program and the changes for FYE 211 the same as the chief's, namely that there's no retention requirement after the 2-year period and no match or?
It appears in the overview that there may be a 1-year retention
for new hires.
Beyond the 2 years of performance.
Yeah, if you were brand new hires, we're adding them on, but for rehiring or bringing back, there is, and I can confirm that. I tried to get a hold of the FEMA district director for grants, and I couldn't get her today, but I'll probably get a hold of her tomorrow, so any questions you have, I can confirm with her out of the FEMA office.
If I could, Councilman, that might be something that council might want to provide as a condition to any type of council action, that be confirmed, should that be important to council.
Well, and I guess my other concern is, what exactly does this pay for? Does it pay for health care, OPEB?
The full package.
Everything? All
Everything.
their post-employment benefits?
As far as the way I read it and the way it was explained in the tutorial, that it's the full cost of that person for a 2-year period, just a 2-year period. And again, Councilman Galloway, I can check that with the district representative. Those are some of the questions I had, but I was not able to secure a conversation with her this afternoon.
Okay, my only concern, obviously, we all want to put as many firefighters on the street, and if we can get any back through this program, that's fantastic. However, we don't want to create a situation where, having just gone through a very painful and unenjoyable process of reducing some post-employment benefit costs and health care costs, we add to them because this SAFER grant in some way doesn't fully compensate us for any firefighters that are brought back or otherwise ties our hands. So when we're done with request for information, I'd like to offer a motion with a few conditions upon it.
Certainly, Councilman, and it could also, what is there a deadline for application to the grant?
Application deadline's due 5 p.m. on the 17th. It's only a 1-month period. It was open from August to September 17th. Right. However, in any grant, my understanding has always been you don't have to accept it either. We could go ahead and do a full application. If they were to award us and we were to find out in the interim that the things you're worried about, Councilman Galloway's worried about, were in true fact, then we could just not receive the grant.
Chief, who does your applications? Is this an extensive grant request, or?
That would be me.
It would be you. All right.
This is the second one. The first one I wrote was for turnout gear for increasing our PPE supply again.
Sure. Councilman has some good questions. I lean towards supporting this. What would be complicated is if we were able to rehire 4 and then had to reduce staff next year in the fire department.
And they have a formula built in for that.
There's a
So,
formula.
like I said, if you were to have to lay off 1 more, not including the 4 they brought back, they would subtract. They have a formula, but they would end up subtracting 1 from the grant and reduce the monies in that fashion.
Because obviously these are the folks that were laid off were lower on the is it union
Totem pole, yep.
So you wouldn't be hop skipping over
No.
and going to hire folks. Okay. Other questions or yes, ma'am?
The way that I read this grant is that some of the costs not included is overtime, correct? Overtime.
Yeah, they wouldn't cover any overtime,
Okay.
so those people wouldn't be paid for, if we were to have overtime, it would have to come out of our budget. This is just to bring them back 100% employee pay, including benefits and package.
Mr. Bruner, I did have a question. I know we're at the discovery stages of the fire authority. Do you think this would in any way limit or hinder or promote our actions that we're doing with the fire authority?
No, I really don't think it would have any effect on the formation of the fire authority.
Okay.
And I think, as the chief pointed out, generally, if we were awarded a grant, there would then be a grant agreement that would come back to council for approval if there were some terms and conditions that turned out not to be favorable at that time. We'd have the opportunity, the council would have the opportunity to turn it down.
So approval of this tonight, without conditions, we could address any concerns at that grant approval.
That's correct. This is simply to provide the chief with the direction to apply for the grant, and then if we're fortunate enough to get it, the city attorney would have an opportunity to review the grant agreement, and we can make sure those issues about OPEB costs and retention periods are indeed what the application material says that they are.
Can you explain to me what is the city's grant process? Do you get approval from or support from other departments or from the city manager's department? How does that work? Or do you just write it and submit it?
I have no idea, Councilwoman.
Well, this is a good question for a lot of us.
Right, that's why I was coming to council to ask for this, because it's about employment and cost. I didn't request anybody's permission for the safety personal protective equipment grant. I just wrote it and submitted it. But again, on all of them, you can refute it. We haven't bought the aerial yet, but if you didn't want to spend that money or any additional money, we could refute that grant too.
I guess, let me rephrase my question. My approach was, because I work for a nonprofit too, we have, like 3 or 4 eyes on our grants before they go out. So I was wondering, is that kind of a process here in the city?
You're asking about support.
Yeah,
Do we have
support
from any other departments or staff? Because it's an
expensive process.
Yeah, I've been crunching numbers all day just to get, I got about 60% through it, so.
Well, if I could try to answer that question, we really operate on a kind of a grant-by-grant basis. There's some grants which the city applies for which are relatively small and routine, like the CDBG tree appropriation that you approved tonight. In talking with Chief Sullivan about this previously, knowing that this was going to be a lot of time and work, I thought that it was best that he bring it to the council before he invests all the time and work to get a preliminary approval to apply. That wouldn't necessarily be done in every instance with every grant. It's really just kind of a grant-by-grant basis. But these federal public safety grants have become annual and routine, basically where every fire department is applying for something every year, and basically we all take a turn. When push comes to shove, the federal government's got to spread the wealth around. So you apply year in, year out, and every once in a while it's your turn. So I wouldn't expect the city of Hazel Park, for example, to provide a letter in support of our application any more than I would provide a letter of support for theirs. Now, well, because this particular grant program is kind of pits city against
highly
city.
Competitive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Different.
Extremely competitive.
And in different grant situations, that may not be the case. They may be collaborative, they may be intergovernmental, and we may see those kind of letters.
Does that help?
Well, yes, I also know that there's an eligibility or a competitive, item in here that says if the application addresses regional initiatives, and I know we have Oakway, and
Yes,
we
with the
provide in
the
that.
auto
So-
aid, and that all helps us.
Yes.
And that we're working toward the consolidation. That helps us on the grant.
Very good. Then I suspect we're looking for direction from council. Is there a proposed motion?
I would move that we approve the fire chief to apply for the fiscal year 2010 SAFER grant to hire, to rehire 4 laid-off firefighters, and that he make application by September 17th, the grant deadline.
Support.
Thank you. Motion is made by Councilman Galloway, seconded by Councilwoman Piana. I strongly support this as well. Discussion, yes, ma'am. Ms. Hirschberger, come up.
I just sat back there on my fingers and counted in about 4 months, you're going to be starting a budget process again. How does getting this grant affect the budget process, considering that we have not yet, I'm going to make an assumption here, that we have not yet negotiated some of those union contracts? How does this play into the union contracts and negotiations, and does it make it easier to negotiate, or does it make it more difficult? And how does this play into planning the budget for next year? We already may have to see, we may have to lay off 1 more fire department employee. Then that automatically affects that grant, should we get it, is my understanding.
Sure.
And I just want to know how that whole,
That's a good
how
question.
that all gels together as far as looking forward to next year's budget.
Well, I think we're all glad we put you, you were the first person to be put on that committee to look at next year's budget. I don't know how it might affect union negotiations, but I do know that by adding 4 of our laid-off firefighters, if we do have to lay off firefighters next year, it seems as though the grant helps soften that blow. At least that's the way I'm reading it. Anything you want to share or help clear up for Mrs. Hirschberger? Or Dan or Bob?
As I said, there's a formula in there, and my understanding doing the tutorial was that if you were to reduce, then the grant would be reduced similarly. So if you were to take 2 firefighters and lay them off, then you would lose the grant because they would take 2, and that would be all 4 positions. And they just reduce it financially by whatever your reductions are in your staff. So they're not telling you as a body of government you have to keep people because you got the grant, but they will pull back their money as you reduce because you don't have the funding for the other firefighters.
But we'd still have the 2 that we brought back.
Right. Yeah, we'd have 2 that we brought back, and so it's a proportional response.
Mr. Bruner, anything else from?
Well, I think it's a fair question. The short answer is we don't know. We don't know what we don't know about next year's budget. We don't know what's going to happen with state revenue sharing later this month. We don't know what's going to happen with that collective bargaining agreement. And so I think in the short term, we apply for the grant, see what happens, and then see how the rest of it unfolds. But I don't think that we're losing anything or eliminating any options by applying for the grant right now.
A question, and I apologize if you mentioned this while I was away from the table. Is there an announcement date that they've specified that we may, do we have any idea when we would hear about it?
I think they have an idea when they're going to have it concluded, but I forgot what the date was. I can check on that for you. Usually the computer sorts them out first and tells if you're in or not, and then it sorts it out a second time, and then it goes to committee. National Fire Academy has a group come in, and they read each one by 2 or 3 different groups, and then they take a consensus, and that puts you on the point scale, and then they award.
We often have pending grant requests as we begin the budget process, and those line items are specifically spelled out in our budget packet so that we know what may or may not come in. They're often capital requests, not personnel. Personnel is a pretty new thing for the federal government to be offering, but the conversation always happens surrounding these grants of, if we don't get it, are we able to pay for it? If we don't get it, the grant, is this something that we are willing and able to pay for? And I imagine we would have the same sort of conversation up here if we don't have a decision from the federal government by budget time. you know, do we put that line item in as a placeholder? Do we pull it out? What are our other
The
alternatives?
federal government's fiscal year, though, is October 1,
Yes,
right?
it is.
So if this is a fiscal 2010 grant, we're going to know.
Your Honor,
Sometimes grants run.
Or am I wrong?
No, the FEMA will commence the panel and review process within 60 days of the end of the application period. Award decisions for the fiscal year 2010 program will be completed on or before September 30th, 2011. So we're talking about a grant decision
2012.
a year from now.
I see.
Yeah, sometimes grants are behind a year.
Yeah.
I also will tell you electronically to file, there is a button on each grant that's listed, and Ferndale's are all listed, everything we've done from the beginning, that you can retract it at any time. So if we were to say go ahead, and somewhere down the road we said, no, this isn't going to work, we're foreseeing we're going to have to cut bigger than what the grant allows, then we can retract our application.
My experience with grants is you have to proceed as if you're not going to get the grant. So if we're not going to know till a year from now, then when y'all are working on the grant or the budget in the spring, late winter, you just have to assume you don't have that grant. All right? Anything else? Madam Clerk, then, are we ready for...
We are ready to
roll?
vote. Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Just to clarify, there weren't any additional stipulations added. It was just as written.
Just as written.
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, that passes unanimously. Are we back to the consent agenda, item
Yes, Your Honor, we
G?
are. Item G, which is mine,
and that's you?
approval to purchase a vertical carousel filing cabinet. And as council will recall, this is a capital expense I began discussing with you around 2 years ago while we were working on the fiscal year 2010 budget. This is a piece of equipment that I am proposing replace our current rotating file, which houses only a small portion of our 60,000 voter registration records. It houses currently our active voters and our challenged voters, but all of our canceled voters, whose records have to be kept for 10 years and are accessed on an almost daily basis, are currently filed in traditional filing cabinets. The small card bearer that we currently have is 40-plus years old. Parts are no longer available. It's requiring service multiple times a year. And like I said, it is not large enough to hold all of our voter registration records. The requested replacement is a substantially larger cabinet, and the reason for that is it can be configured to hold election materials and forms, our supplies, and a majority of our regular files. It should eliminate up to, what did I estimate, 15 traditional filing or 5 traditional filing cabinets, as well as house all of our election registration records. And it will house our supplies, which are currently, well, they're currently at the Curling Club. In the remodeling, we are losing our elections workroom, which was a secure, lockable room where we held our supplies and we held our absent voter ballots. We no longer have that room when we move back upstairs, and the records and the voter ballots have to be kept in a secure, locked location. This would then suffice as that secure, locked location. The unit that we quoted back in the fiscal year 2010 budget process, which council approved, is no longer in production. The new model, which uses new technology, new software, is priced substantially higher. The total cost quoted by the vendor I had been working with for the Lectriever is $35,419. They are extending a limited time offer of a $6,000 trade-in allowance, which brings the price down to $29,400. I have contacted Remco Storage Systems in Troy. They have submitted a quote for a different product, but a similar type product, for just about $1,000 less. In addition, Productivity Systems, the vendor I've been working with, has located an 8-year-old demonstration model of the old Lectriever. It's been used in a dealership for demo purposes. It's in great shape, and is available to us at roughly half the cost of the new unit. Productivities would still offer maintenance on it. Of course, it would not come with a warranty, but parts are still available. We could still get maintenance on it. Like I said, it's in good shape. With an additional purchase of some trays to specifically fit our voter registration cards, we're still substantially under a new price, somewhere in the vicinity of $20,000 instead of $29,000. So my recommendation is that I pursue that used unit if it's still available, and I have reason to believe it is. If it is not, if it is no longer available, then I'm just asking, rather than coming back, you guys go ahead and give me the approval to go ahead and purchase a unit at a not-to-exceed price.
Fair enough. The person who asked that that be pulled, is she still here?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Does that help? Thank you kindly. Yeah, it seems expensive, but it's pretty important stuff, and it's a lot more. It's not a filing. It's not a gray filing cabinet that I might have in my office. It's much more extensive. Any discussion or a motion?
I would move to approve the purchase of a vertical carousel filing cabinet at a cost not to exceed $29,419, and to charge the expense to municipal elections capital outlay 101-262-977.
Support. Seconded by Councilman Lennon. Motion by Baker. Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Council members Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey.
Yes. Passes unanimously. Next item is item
Item I, which is approval of the city's 2010 membership in the Traffic Improvement Association.
righto. Byron still here?
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Fotiades, do you want to introduce the TIA membership item, please? We do know that the DDA was supportive of this. I think the police department was as well. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Back on March 8th, you had a presentation with representatives of TIA, and there was really no action taken by council at that time. Since then, the police department, DPW, and DDA have been looking at some projects, mostly on 9 Mile Road, and we'll need some assistance, professional assistance, and some recommendations to council for any improvements we have at certain intersections, one of which would be Allen and 9 Mile Road. And if you were to invest $6,100, I think would be a good situation for the city, because the police department does not have the expertise to go ahead and do a detailed traffic study or whatever we need to look for. As it is, one of the Allen alone, 9 Mile Allen, our consulting engineers figure between $3,000 and $5,000. And the $6,100 membership for 2010 would give us at least a year, so there'd be, if any additional projects come up. And the DDA has said that they would fund 1/3 of the cost. So the other 2/3 would come from the Major Street Fund. So we're at a point now where we do need some assistance, and it's perfect timing. Any questions?
I'll ask one. Apart from joining the TIA, is there any? Is that more cost efficient than to simply hire them for this one item? Hire as a contractor for a one-shot deal as opposed to an annual membership?
Well, we're not. I don't think they just go ahead and do one-shot deals. That your membership includes whatever you ask them to do. Mm-hmm. Will they do as a detailed study? I don't know if they go to the point of some engineering firms, traffic engineering firms go really in depth, but at least they can go further than what we can do. Mm-hmm. And these really aren't that. I don't think they're overly complicated. We're not looking to put a traffic circle somewhere that would create controversy, but we do need some assistance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Councilman?
Well, when this came up during our budget process, we asked representatives of the Traffic Improvement Association to present to council. In my 9 years here, I've never been more embarrassed for a presenter who didn't have any clue as to what they were talking about, when the last time they were in Ferndale was. It was perhaps the single worst presentation I've ever seen and least prepared for in my 9 years here. I guess what we have to ask is, what I have to ask is not only what is the cost, which is important in these budget times, but what are we getting? And if the three gentlemen who showed up to present to us are any indication of the product that we get, I'm not sure that $6,100 is of value. So, they never followed up, give us more information on, despite our requests that they do so. To me, that suggests that they're not very interested in having the city of Ferndale as a customer. If I had Giffords and Webster, if we had Giffords and Webster do that study, I'd have some confidence that it was actually performed in a manner, in a manner that would be appropriate to the job. So that's why I pulled it. I assume that they're not here. So without more, I have a very hard time supporting this.
I understand your comments. Mr. Fotiades, any thoughts on what the councilman's sharing? I mean,
Well, I think the councilman, through the chair, has made some good points. I think the situation with TIA at the time of that presentation is that Bob DeCory had recently retired from them, or within a year or so, and he had been assigned to Ferndale, or not so much assigned to Ferndale, but he was the one who was the go-to person on studies, not only in Ferndale but elsewhere. And I know for at least 20 some years he came in Ferndale, and he knew the city, he knew the traffic control people as far as back as Gertley. I can't speak for them. I agree they probably weren't as prepared, but I don't think that's an indictment on their expertise. I don't think these are overly difficult projects, but I think I don't have the expertise, and certainly the police department has said that they like some assistance. If you have any further questions, the chief could respond, but I do believe at that presentation they were not as well prepared. I think if DeCory had been here, and they do consult with him too, had he been here, I think he would have been able to tell you what he's done for Ferndale for the last 20-some years, and it would probably have been very impressive.
Thank you. Any other requests for information?
Well, I guess I have more comments than anything else, because I concur with Scott, and I know that the police department relied on the TIA call as Will needed sort of type of service, and I was not impressed either with their presentation. And since nobody could really delineate exactly what they had done for us in calendar year or fiscal year 2009, as all nonprofits are having to show their value and what you get for your money, and almost every city I know is like questioning their memberships into these organizations. I think it would behoove us to see if they would actually price out this project. And that's kind of where I am right now.
Appreciate your thoughts.
A question.
Yes,
there.
ma'am.
A question for our police chief, actually, if he's still here. In your I think it was in your most recent weekly update email, you listed a project or two that you thought that you may request TIA services for. If, as Councilman Galloway has suggested, we retain Giffords Webster, who is sort of our, engineers of record, would they be able to do a comparable job from your eyes?
My understanding is that under the circumstances that I've been thrown into, is that we relied very heavily on Officer Steve LaRoe and his long-standing expertise in traffic engineering. Now, whether he didn't have a degree in traffic engineering, but local traffic engineering, he was our go-to guy. And when he got into a pickle or he needed to know additional information, TIA was who he went to. Now, many times it was informally, many times it was officially. But I wasn't here for that apparently terrible presentation. But what we have found ourselves with is that myself and our new traffic control officer, who we are desperately trying to find training for him to get up to speed. Now, that's going to take a period of time, an extensive period of time to get Paul Simpson up to the level where we had Steve LaRoe. So this was our first crack at looking at what type of resources can we get from traffic engineering standpoint. From the nice thing about having a membership in the TIA is that they are on call and you can call them, and because you're a member you get answers or assistance in specific areas that where you may have questions of. Now, hiring someone per, I'm saying it's not a bad idea to hire someone, per every single traffic engineering matter that we may have, but I don't know if that will be cost effective, but it certainly will limit us to not being able to access that as a resource, as, like our version of Traffic Google.
Does TIA provide any of the types of trainings that our new traffic enforcement officer might need?
There is training that is available through the TIA, and as one of the other things that we were hoping to encompass in this. And also there is there's workshops and networking type opportunities on a monthly basis they put on. So all of the local organizations and departments, they have a meeting that is attended by the traffic officers, whatever they may call them in different jurisdictions.
If this is a resource that the DPW and the police department rely on, similar to the way that the CDS department relies on SEMCOG and other information sharing and research giving organizations, I would be inclined to support it, as there are several projects that we've laid out, that we'd like to accomplish in this next fiscal year. Although I'm completely in support of the TIA needing to demonstrate its value to the city of Ferndale, just as we've asked every other nonprofit that we're a member of.
We could certainly ask for an annual report and
Absolutely.
maybe put it as part of the motion. Before we get to that, does any of this have any bearing on Troy and Allen and the possibility of any noise abatement or one-way streets or blocking off Troy? Is that part of any of these plans?
It's not so much the noise abatement, although that may be a sub-particle of what we're trying to accomplish, but that's actually what started this situation is that we were having a meeting at the DPW with ourselves, the DDA, and we were talking specifically about the intersection of Troy and Allen and 9 Mile and lane reductions and different scenarios of what is and we came up with a whole bunch of different good ideas, but when we got to the bottom line and we said, there are truck turning ratios and all sorts of things that I may at one time be up to speed on, but I can guarantee you right now that I am not. And I would like to have somebody before I would make, that's quite an investment, and before I would make any recommendation to council, I would like to have some professional engineering advice.
Okay, I just hope they might include, knowing in the background that there's issues of noise, that if you could kill two birds with one stone, that's...
Oh, absolutely. And we made, during that meeting, that was, a sub-part of that meeting, is that how do we do this and then still, sound barriers and things of that nature.
So reduce traffic. All right. I think we've asked enough questions. Is there a motion? Either way?
Yes.
Either from Councilwoman Baker or any of the 4 council members?
I would move to approve the city's 2010 membership in the Traffic Improvement Association and to charge the fee of $6,100 to the Major Streets Fund membership, account number 202958. I would like to hear from the Traffic Improvement Authority as well as our internal staff as to whether they feel we've achieved sufficient value for our investment in this fiscal year.
So you're asking for a report, perhaps, at the end of the year? That's what her motion is? Motion is seconded by Councilman Lennon, made by Baker. Discussion?
I guess discussion is, the motion asks for a report from the TIA before we establish our FY12 budget. So before the end of, you said before the end of this year. Did you mean fiscal year in 2011 or 2012?
Well, it's a good question because we're joining late now in the fiscal year.
Yeah, we don't know what their
I don't know
membership
how to
year
answer
is.
that.
If it's 12 months or not. I think her motion, though, was that prior to rejoining, we'd want to report.
No, my motion was actually that at the end of this membership year, whatever we're joining for, I would like a report to see whether we feel like we got our value for our money. But it is a good question. I'm not sure exactly what that membership year would encompass. Obviously, we can't get retroactive services for the time that's already passed. Do either of you guys know, would they honor us for 12 months?
Is it calendar or fiscal year or something else?
You know, we usually get it just before the end of the fiscal year, but I can't tell you if it's a calendar year or a fiscal year basis. But all these projects that we have, obviously, they're going to be starting after the fact, and they're certainly worth a year's worth of projects here, so.
Well, I think we want a year's worth of membership, and we want to report at the end of the year. Is that correct?
12 months worth of membership.
Yes, I'd also say that their invoice states invoicing for 2010, TIA annual support. So.
Again, not clear, yeah.
Not clear.
So, yeah, are we going to get, is this information ready to, I mean, are they going to come in, you know, next week to do this, or is it going to be 3 or 4 months lead time, and then we're into 2011?
Well, all I can say is that whenever we've had a project with them, they've responded. It's not been like, well, you know, we'll check our calendar. They've come here.
And just one other question. Have we ever seen any product that they've produced? I mean, does it usually come to council?
Well, what's happened in the past when we've had projects that have gone to the council, for example, the narrowing of 9 Mile, and the council has to make a decision whether they want a narrower road, for example. They take the input of TIA in their decision-making. So if we come before council and say we want to expend, you know, X amount of dollars to reconfigure Allen and 9 Mile, this is what we want to do, TIA is going to have a report in, or they're going to be here to say, this is why we're suggesting it be done this way. So they'll be part of they'll be part of the administration going to council. But it's not going to be TIA in and of itself coming. So they're going to assist us in whatever we recommend to council.
Mr. Brian, Byron, I'm sorry. The invoice that we've gotten is dated December of '09. So we've just been given the invoice from last year. I can't support voting this membership fee for a year that's going to expire in 90 days. Can we? I would probably vote no on the motion now and
vote it down. I'll try again.
ask that it be tabled for 2 weeks and brought back a fresh invoice from the TIA and a speaker from TIA.
May I ask a question? Are you asking that this be prorated? I don't think, I don't think this should be driven by time remaining as much as projects that we have down the pipeline.
Well, I've got a question to piggyback on the mayor's. We have an invoice in our packet dated 12/14/2009, and it looks like it's been paid by the City of Ferndale's Police Department.
No, it was not paid. It was, I had written, we had put the account on there, but then the accounting, accounting has said, no, we need council's permission to approve that. See, in the past, when we've approved those have been internally. We've not gone to council with a request that it be approved by council. Those have always been handled internally. But this time, the accounting position was that this had to go before council. So this is the first time we've ever gone to council with a request to pay for the membership.
Okay, so this city stamp and writing on here, Byron, you're telling us we never did pay for this. It was submitted for payment, but it wasn't in fact paid after it came to council.
That's correct.
Okay.
Byron, I think what our concern is I don't mind, is well, if this does pass it for the $6,100 or whatever it was, we're not getting 3.5 months worth of service. They're going to give us from September to September of next year.
Well, we want a year, but I don't know that we're getting a year.
That's what I'm trying to ask him. So if you could find that out for us, but why, $6,000 for 3 months of service is absurd, so. You know what I'm saying? You understand
Well,
my
I
question?
understand where you're looking. You're looking at a timeframe instead of by a project that we have already in the pipeline. But in any case, if that's the council's wishes, we'll talk to them and see what we can get. You know, whether if it's something that they can only do on a calendar year basis, then maybe we wait till January 1st. That just delays the projects, but I mean, at least a decision on where we go with the projects. But you know, we'll find out.
Or we could contract with Giffords Webster.
Well, you could contract with Giffords, but Giffords would subcontract that out to a traffic engineer.
Yeah.
And they're going, you know, and it all depends on how quickly the council wants to move.
Well, on this project, obviously, we can only pour cement for about 2 more months. Are you talking about a project that's going to, that you wanted to get in the ground this fall, and that's the urgency for this?
No, it's not a question of getting it in. It's just a question that, you know, we have a lot of things coming up, and, you know, we tend to be aggressive in that we don't bog ourselves down with just extending. If we have things that we want to do, we'll go ahead and try and do them. And these are projects we've talked about, and we want to get some movement on them. We want to get them started in terms of planning. So, I mean,
so this is a plan. So this fall, all we plan to do was plan this project out and then get shovels in the ground next spring.
Well, that's up to council if they want to put a shovel in the ground, but we wanted to get it, you know, there's obviously a need. We see a need, for example, at the Allen, we see a safety need. We see people not sure of when to make that left-hand turn coming off of Allen onto eastbound Troy. You know, we see issues that have come up. And we finally got together and tried to put our heads together, and I think we came up with some good ideas, but we didn't know whether they would be doable. So, I mean, it's not something that, you know, the show is going to get, these projects are going to physically get done this year. They're not going to get done.
Well, based on that and a better understanding of what your timeline is, Byron, I think Councilman Lennon's suggestion is a good one, that I don't think 2 weeks, one way or the other, is going to hopefully adversely affect your plans. So let's just have the TIA folks come to the next meeting and explain what they do for Ferndale and how they can help us out.
I think that's consensus of council. We're interested in renewing our membership, but we want a year's worth of membership if we're going to pay those dues. That means waiting till January.
Well, let me, I mean, you've had the presentation. Would it be, I'm just asking a question, maybe it's just a mere fact of just calling up and asking them and getting an answer to that, as opposed to having a presentation. You've already had a presentation. I mean, what are we going to gain from that?
This is going nowhere fast. We have a motion on the floor. Do we want to go ahead and dispose of that?
Fine with me, and then perhaps Councilman Galloway has any
Madam
questions.
Clerk?
Okay. Vote on the motion on the floor. Council members Baker?
No.
Galloway?
Wait, what is, what's the motion?
This is the membership.
We're voting it down.
Oh, we're voting down first, okay. No.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Maybe.
Lennon?
No.
Piana?
No.
Mayor Covey?
No. Now we might look for a motion that would sort of get consensus of what we really want to do.
I would move that we direct the DPW director to get further clarification on the term of any contract with TIA and comparable information from Giffords and Webster regarding the cost of the projects that are contemplated by the DPW director, and bring that back to council before the first regularly scheduled meeting in October.
Before or
by? Add or before. Add or before.
We need a second for that. Do I have a second? Seconded by Baker. If I can, I think the consensus is that we're interested in this membership, but we'd like a full year. We'd like to know exactly what they're going to be able to do for us. Is that close? Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilmembers Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, that passes unanimously. Next item, Madam Clerk.
We are on to council liaison reports, if any.
Anything on the 8 Mile Boulevard Association? Anything on the Michigan Suburbs Alliance? I would report on the South Oakland County Mayors Association. We had our monthly meeting last week at Como's. Mayors from all over Southeast Michigan were in attendance, as well as some city managers, including a new mayor from South Lyon, which is joining SACMA. And Councilwoman Piana was in attendance along with me, and the highlight of that meeting for me, besides the bonding and networking, was a presentation, a speech by Brenda Lawrence, the mayor of Southfield, Michigan, who is now the nominee for the Democratic candidacy for lieutenant governor with Verge Bonero. And she gave an absolutely excellent speech. She's been a great mayor and is now in the midst of running for lieutenant governor. So any update on Southeast Michigan Council of Governments? Or TRU, True?
I just wanted to mention, one of my goals on council is, since I've been elected and started my term in January, is to meet elected officials surrounding every community, mayors and city council folks, and that event allowed me to complete my goal. So,
You're finished?
well, I've made relationships in every bordering community, including Detroit, and so that was one of my goals on council in my first year. And I also met for the first time the mayor of Madison Heights, and so it was good.
Mayor Swanson's a great guy. All right. Anything from the Woodward Avenue Action Association? If not, are we to call to council?
We are, Your Honor.
All right. Well, I'm glad to see our Recreation Director, Julie Hall, is here. You look great. All healed and good. Anything you'd like to share tonight?
Just to thank our staff and the seniors for holding down the fort in my absence. I appreciate it. So I appreciate them. Thanks.
Welcome back, Ms. Hall. Anything Byron Fotides from DPW?
No, thank you, Your Honor. All set.
Thank you, sir. Chief Collins from the Police Department, anything to share?
Quick, Your Honor. Again, just want to remind everybody that, again, before the next council meeting on September 25th is our prescription drop-off date. So anybody that has, we've been advertising this in the paper. There's also many more locations where you can drop off if this is not convenient at the Ferndale Police Department. You can go to www.dea.gov, and there's a whole list of other alternate spots that you can drop off unused or old prescription drugs. And the second thing is that we're working with the vacant homes initiative with the city manager's office, and one thing that we wanted to make sure is if we could get the word out to the public that if you do live next to a vacant home, a foreclosed home, a for sale home that is vacant, as a resident, please keep an eye on that for us. Report any suspicious activity, anything that looks like repair that looks a little shady, or even if it doesn't, give us a call. We're happy to check that out. We're trying to prevent the home strippings of the copper and the other type of crimes that have been going on. We've been lucky so far that we've had few, but these can multiply very quickly. So the neighbors know who the vacant homes are. They live next door to them. They live across the street from them. They can keep an eye on them for them. So we, of course, don't want to publish any type of list, because that's just a way for bad guys to see where to go to. So we're calling upon the neighbors and the citizens to please keep an eye on the neighborhoods of the houses that they know are vacant. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Collins. Our fire chief. Thank you, Kevin.
Chief Sullivan, if I could for just a moment ask a couple questions. Sure. We recently got your first report to us. I wanted to give you a little feedback on that. I think that was the first report we got since placing in the interim one.
Yes.
Obviously, it needs to be weekly and in a bit more detail than what you provided us. Going back for 4 months, I think it goes back to May, doesn't give us a lot of opportunity to have actionable information. Okay. So while it was thorough for what it was, it sort of hit on your high points, and I understand why you did that. But in order for this direct report relationship to work, it's got to be thorough, timely, and the information that we need to help manage you. So, you know, Sherilyn Tallman's the city clerk's report is an excellent example, I think, of information that's usable. The city manager, I think last week had an email report that was in pretty good form, and you know, and the police chief is developing a format that seems to be very helpful for us. So, okay. You know, if you can take a look at their examples, and if you need additional information or feedback on what we want, please, you know, let us know. I suspect we're going to have some sort of motion up here in the not too distant future, but you know, if we could get something in that shape this Friday, that would be great. Sure. All right.
Thank you, Councilman. Thanks, Chief. Did I miss anyone back there? Excuse me, excuse me. Sherilyn Tallman, City Clerk, anything to share?
Well, we're only a month and a half out from the November general elections, so October 4th is the last day to register to vote, to make sure you're eligible to vote in that election. If you need an absentee ballot, it's not too early to contact my office and apply for an AV ballot. We expect to have ballots in-house by next week and start getting them in the mail. We have discussed a number of times the possibility or the situation the city is in of administering school board May elections, and our efforts to get the Hazel Park School Board and the Ferndale School Board to move their elections to November in conjunction with ours, which would save the school district's money and it would save the city's resources by not having that May election. It does not look right now like either school board is going to make that decision and make that change. So at our next meeting, I'll be bringing forth a recommendation to this body that the city of Ferndale opt out of administering May school board elections for the next 2 years. That's the length of the opt-out agreement. Thank you. That would put the administration of school board elections to the county. There are only 3 school districts remaining in Oakland County who have not switched their elections to a more economical November election. I think, given our budget concerns, this is the right fiscal move for the city of Ferndale.
Sherilyn, I concur. I think that as bad shape as some of these school districts are in, I'm surprised that the Hazel Park residents and the Ferndale residents aren't raising a little bit more stink about this. And you're paying your school board taxes, but they're spending more money when they have the opportunity to piggyback us.
Right, in which case they would spend nothing on their election.
I'll fully support you on that.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, Madam Clerk. I concur. I think you're going to have a lot of support, and I think the residents are beginning to be very knowledgeable about this. And Councilwoman Piana and I attended the school board meeting and lobbied on behalf of saving both money from school board taxes and city resources. Mr. Bruner, what do you have to talk to us about from the city manager's viewpoint?
Just wanted to thank all the residents who applied for the Financial Planning Committee. I was really overwhelmed at the response, the fact that we had volunteers from every corner of the community, every precinct. Given the short amount of time that we had to recruit volunteers, I was really concerned that it was going to be difficult, but lo and behold, we ended up with more than twice the number of people that the council needed to appoint a full committee. So I'm grateful for that interest, and now begins a very busy fall here in the city of Ferndale. As if we didn't have enough else going on, we'll be delving into the city's finances with that committee, but I look forward to working with the committee on these issues.
Thank you. Mr. Christ.
I have nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Lennon?
Yes, I do. Through the chair, brought to my attention last week, Mr. Bruner, that the daily staffing levels of the fire department have been reduced from 8 personnel to 6 personnel. Did that come before us? I don't recall it. I do know we talked about reducing levels in both police and fire during our budget process, but I don't recall reducing daily staffing levels.
Well, I believe it was discussed during closed sessions regarding to collective bargaining.
So what you're telling us is we have 6 firemen on duty in a 24-hour period to cover Royal Oak Township, Pleasant
No,
Ridge.
we have a minimum of 6 firefighters on duty at any time. Sometimes we have more.
Sometimes we have more. Chief Sullivan, is that true? Sometimes we do have more on if there's vacations or?
We just don't staff up 8. We have 6, and like today we have 7.
Okay. Okay. All right. Has there been any movement from the unions as far as concessions go, from either police or fire? Because I'm hearing that they have made some offers, but I've not seen or heard. Nothing's come across our desk.
Anybody who tells you that either one of those unions that has made a specific proposal in the last several weeks or couple of months or since the last time we talked about it is incorrect. Mr. Sheehan visited my office a couple of times last week. We talked about some things in general. They're seeking some information about healthcare costs, so there are some one-on-one conversations happening, but there have been no specific scheduled negotiations. There's been no mediation in the last couple of weeks. At this point, the Employment Relations Commission has appointed arbitrators for both compulsory arbitrations. There's been preliminary conferences, and that process is beginning, but there's been no direct negotiations, arbitrations, or mediations in the last couple months.
Okay, well, I'm just not getting a straight story from somebody. Very good. I'll look into it a little further. Thank you. I don't want to have anything else.
Thank you. Councilwoman Piana?
Yeah, I have a few things. I'm excited to say that the Planning Commission at their September meeting, which is, I believe, the 17th?
This Thursday.
This Thursday is going to be reviewing the Complete Streets ordinance that I hope council will be approving at our second council meeting in September. I'm also doing a presentation to the Rotary Club, I believe on Thursday, September 30th, hosted by Blooms, and it starts at 6 p.m. So I encourage anybody to come and learn about Complete Streets at that event. I also wanted to let you know on council and in the community that I've been asked to sit on Next Energy, which is a technical R&D firm, research and development, sort of nonprofit public-private partnership in Detroit, on what they have created a program called Get Ready Michigan, and it's getting ready cities in Michigan for electric vehicle infrastructure. And I've just been asked to sit on the work group. We're going to meet every couple of months on learning about what this means for communities. How do we help communities change over to electric vehicle plug-in? GM and Ford want to roll out their products, and these new products need a place to refuel or recharge. And so I will be bringing more information as this work group continues to meet. But as of now, people can learn more about what's going on in Michigan at pluginmichigan.org. And I also encourage the Community Development Department to discuss preparing the community for electric vehicles, which is about, I think it's 250 volts in your garage and in your home, so that you can actually plug these cars in, and looking at our codes and allowing that to happen. And then the biggest one is getting building inspector training. So all these things are coming down the line. Everything's in development, so I'm excited to bring this information to council and the community as things transpire. I also wanted to say thank you to everybody for the Financial Planning Committee. Again, we really are eager to hear your thoughts on some of the difficult choices we have facing our community. And so I really look forward to hearing what you have to say. And then I just wanted to inquire with our fire chief and the city manager on the next steps of the fire authority. And I know we have been fortunate to have access to South SEMCOG, the Michigan Municipal League, and the state of Michigan, who is helping provide staff resources to help facilitate these discussions, discovery of creating our fire authority. And I know it's been a pretty busy summer, but our facilitator is a retired fire chief from Madison Heights? No, Sterling Heights, I believe.
No, one of the lakes.
Bloomfield
West Bloomfield Township.
West Bloomfield Township. And he's sort of like convening both of the communities and talking about what each community needs to do to take the next step. And I know every community or each side has homework, and I was wondering if we had completed some of our homework in preparation for the next meeting.
My homework's done. It's been done since the week of the last meeting. I sent my homework to Ed Klobuchar in Hazel Park so he could replicate it for his homework. Unfortunately, the facilitator from SEMCOG has not been able to schedule the next meeting. He's asked me to schedule the next meeting, so I sent out a meeting request late last week for dates this week and next. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to schedule the next meeting soon. I know that the Chief Sullivan mentioned to me earlier tonight that he has a meeting scheduled, I think, tomorrow with the Hazel Park Fire Chief, so they'll be getting together and working on their homework. But hopefully the busy summer will be coming to an end and we can get folks together for another meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Galloway?
Yeah, I'm really satisfied with the list of folks that we got for this financial advisory or financial planning committee. We have people from every single voting precinct. We have people with kids who are in school, people with grown kids, retirees. We have finance people, people who work with their hands, police officer, people in the auto industry. So I think we have a real nice cross-section here of Ferndale. And I think it's going to be an interesting exercise to see what they come up with, and I think that'll really go a long ways towards perhaps bringing this community around what needs to be done, or deciding what doesn't need to be done, and helping us live with the consequences of doing that. One of the things that we're going to be asked to decide this fall is whether or not the appointees are going to report directly to City Council, as they do now, or whether we're going to have a different, more streamlined approach to that governance. It's the belief of a majority of folks at this table that these different times call for a different approach and management style in city government to make timely decisions and get immediate feedback. So folks will have that opportunity to vote on that, and if people have questions about why these 4 members have supported that, I'm sure they can contact us through the city manager's office.
Very good, Councilman. Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
As Jessica Stilger from the Public Schools announced earlier, the Ferndale Education Foundation, whose board I sit on, as a Ferndale Schools graduate, I'm more than happy to help support the school district, although when it comes to golf outings, I am not a golfer. One golf class in college proved that quite quickly. But to those in the community that are golfers, I am told that the Fieldstone Golf Club in Auburn Hills is quite lovely and that they have cut us a great deal. There is a website with all of this information. It is ferndaleschools.org/FEF, Ferndale Education Foundation. For $110 a golfer, you get to play 18 holes of golf, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks on the course. I'm told that's not necessarily alcoholic snacks, but snacks nonetheless. And then there will be a bit left over as well, because we've gotten this great deal from Fieldstone Golf Club to support the students in the Ferndale School District through the mini grant programs that the Ferndale Education Foundation does, as well as through the programs that the I believe it's the Arts Boosters does. So it's a collaboration. I encourage golfers to please sign up. I'm sure it will be a lovely day. Again, ferndaleschools.org/FEF, Ferndale Education Foundation. I'm sorry, it's Tuesday, September 21st. Apologies. It starts early in the morning. Apparently golfers go out really early in the morning. I was surprised. I wasn't sure what it meant when the census presentation came up on our agenda today, but having a plaque made out to Councilwoman Kate Baker from the census just seems a little, if I could, I would cross this out and make it out to the citizens of the city of Ferndale who returned their forms, who were counted, who participated, and who hopefully will help the city of Ferndale earn grant monies, will help southeastern Oakland County have a voice in regional decision-making as well as in Washington. So thank you to the residents. This isn't anything I had to do with. This is what we all did together. So thank you very much. That's it.
All right, thank you. I had the pleasure of joining tonight the Hazel Park Lions Club, a great service organization. But one of the things that they're doing is they are working hard with the Hazel Park Promise organization, which promises eventually all Hazel Park students who go through the schools can get a 4-year college education, much like in Kalamazoo Promise. This coming Sunday after the AIDS Walk, annual AIDS Walk in Royal Oak, Dino's is holding a buffet. All you care to eat, $15 per person. Those proceeds go to the Michigan AIDS Coalition. He's putting out quite a buffet, so if you're interested in brunch or lunch on Sunday after the AIDS Walk, the 17th, I believe that's, no, the 19th, whatever Sunday is, from 1 to 4 p.m., and I've been asked to guest bartend, and all the tips that I raise will also go to AIDS education. I was given this this sad news by Mayor Porter. The writer from Howdy Doody passed away, and the reason this pertains to Ferndale is that he has been buried in one of our cemeteries. His name was Edward Keene, and most folks of our generation and older remember Howdy Doody. I guess I didn't realize, but his nemesis was the mayor of Doodyville, and the mayor's name was Phineas T. Bluster. In any case, our best wishes go to the family of the writer from Howdy Doody. And we hope to have some really good news tomorrow. We can only share this as an idea that's coming. We expect Mr. Bruner and I to be able to announce a new company will be relocating or locating here in Ferndale. We expect an announcement tomorrow through the governor's office. But this company, which may end up being housed on our east side, will bring up to 250 new direct jobs to this region and another couple of hundred ancillary jobs. We can only tell you that it has to do with the internet, with the automotive industry, and it's pretty exciting. Finally, I want to just share the idea that we've been hearing a lot each week here about noise and some neighbors that are complaining about the noise. And I do want people to understand that the city is moving on it. We are concerned. We're always concerned. And that we've been going through a process of talking with the DDA, talking with noise experts, sound experts, meeting with business owners. Things don't always move quick enough for some residents. I do want to share, and I learned this from former Mayor Porter, but I have gone out half a dozen times over the summer on my bicycle at night to listen to the sound and the noise from that direct neighborhood. And no less than 4 times late at night after midnight have ridden my bike to West Troy. And I have yet to find loud noise. And I've been there at midnight, 12:15, 12:30, parked my bike right by the house of some of the folks that complain. And while I don't discount that there is noise and loud music sometimes, I haven't been able to discover it on certain nights, at least that I'm out there. We are going to bring this up to the agenda next week, and there are ways that we can ameliorate some of this. But I do remind people that we do live in an urban environment. It appears that our hand is being forced and that we may have yet another issue to vote on, depending on how the petitions come out that were passed. It appears that there may be enough, and the clerk's office is still studying them, but we may be forced to be voting on an ordinance proposal based on the petition process that is very, very strict. And if this particular ordinance were to pass by the voters, it could literally change the face of downtown in the sense of shutting down the downtown at 7 p.m. I just encourage people to be very careful if they are asked to sign petitions. This process could result in our being forced to hold a special election. If we have to do that, it could cost the city many tens of thousands of dollars. Again, understanding people's frustration, but also understanding that we all live in an urban environment, that we've all been woken up by trailer tractors or lawnmowers or loud music. But I promise to work the best I can, and so do all the council members, to try to reach a compromise so that we can still have a vibrant downtown that is attractive to people and still allows people to have the sanctity and peace in their homes. But if this kind of an ordinance does manage to pass, it will bring silence to the town, silence the kind that you hear in a cemetery. And so I encourage people to be very careful about what they sign in case there are more petitions being passed. And finally, we don't want to get like California, where anytime anybody wants any issue to be voted on, they take it to the ballot box. In our system of government, you elect the 5 people here, and every 2 years you get to elect 2 or 3 of us, a mayor and a couple council members. And it is our job to try to do our best to reach compromise and do the best we can with all of the issues and try to please the most people and do the best for the city, as opposed to government by ordinance or by petition. That being it, this meeting is adjourned. Good night.